I'm just about to hit the 50-mile mark when I ask my mom what time it is, and I am blown away by her answer. I'm not only going to PR a 50-mile, even in the middle of a 62-mile or 100K race, I'm going to PR by an amount of time that is putting me in shock. This is Inner Critic Freedom, the podcast helping yoga teachers and wellness professionals rise above imposter syndrome so they can live their purpose, achieve their biggest goals, and experience life in a deeper, more fulfilling way. Today is a pop-up episode, and I am so excited to be here with you. I'm also broadcasting this episode on YouTube, launching my YouTube channel, so I'm so excited about that. But today is going to be a race recap. I just completed a 100K, my very first 100K race, which is 62 miles. And I want to share the story with you. If you've been a listener of this podcast for a while, then you've heard that after every big race, I've done a recap here, sharing the lessons I've learned, sharing the story. And I just could not help but do the same thing and jump in and do a little pop-up podcast episode with you today. So buckle up. Or grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, tuck in. I'm about to share the story of this extremely incredible race, the Wild Goose 100K. But to start, let's give you a little bit of history. I was not a runner in high school, but I always dreamed of being a runner. And the two things that stopped me were, number one, I couldn't be a runner because running was terrible. It hurt. It was impossible. I got shin splints immediately. But also I thought that I could never be a fast runner. So therefore I could never be a runner. I just thought that running meant being fast. If you can't be fast, then you can't be a runner in general. Around 2019, I started running, learning how to run, and brought in the mindset tools that I teach in this podcast and teach in my career, and taking on the identity of becoming a runner, letting go of limiting beliefs that held me back from running. And I discovered that I absolutely love trail running. Trail running is what I've always meant to do. And I feel that way in my bones now. I recently came across a couple photos of me as a kid on a long walk, on a long hike, and I'm beaming. I am truly beaming as a kid on a hike. My parents took me to this park called Macedonia in Connecticut to go hiking, and I would always be up ahead of them, and they called me their little mountain lion, and I loved it. It just made me excited. I was always just speeding up the mountain. It brought me so much joy. And so now looking back, I can see that all roads led to here. I was always meant to be a trail runner. But since being a trail runner, I've been getting faster and faster, but there was still a story that told me I'm never going to be fast. I'm never going to be at the front of the pack. I'm never going to be an elite runner. That's something that's just not possible for me. Earlier in this year, I did a race called Escarpment, which is in the Catskills. It's a 30K, about 18 miles. And I've done it many times before, and I absolutely loved it. And I PR'd by 15 minutes in that race. And at the end of it, I felt like I had so much left. And I was curious because I thought, interesting, that race was actually not hard. I feel like there's so much more in me to give, but I didn't tap into it. So I want to learn how to tap into it. So I brought this to my coach and I asked him, what do I do? And so since then, we've been kind of doing a few workouts and a few speed workouts and a few longer runs. He had me go back to that exact course in the Catskills and do a training run, kind of running quote unquote recklessly, where I wasn't trying to conserve energy or hold myself back out of fear of burning out too soon in the race, but to just let myself free and go. And during that run, I did do that to an extent, but I still held back quite a bit. Now, let me jump back a little bit more that this year I was working towards doing the Vermont 100-mile race in July. And I was on the wait list for that race, but I needed to qualify in order to actually get into the race. And in order to qualify, I needed to do a 50-mile race in under 12 hours. All the 50-mile races I've done so far had massive amount of elevation, so it took me longer than 12 hours. So I signed up for a race on the same course or a similar course in the same park that this 100K was in April. And I had the goal of doing it in under 12 hours. And there's a race recap on that as well. You can go back to that episode. I'll link it in the show notes. I finished that race at 12 hours and 20 minutes. I missed the cutoff by 20 minutes. I was heartbroken. And after that, I decided to not continue to work towards the 100 mile and not sign up for another 50 mile and try and make it happen. My work life has been getting more busy and I thought there would just be too much. And I wanted to instead enjoy running instead of making it all about these numbers. So I backed out of Vermont 100 and I felt like a huge sense of relief when I did, but also a huge sense of disappointment. And after that, I was a little bit meandery through the summer. I kind of felt like I didn't know what I was working towards. I didn't feel excited about any running goals. Like I was excited, so excited for that 100 mile. And I really wanted to do something new this year. I really wanted to take on a distance that I've never done before. But interestingly, because of that 50 mile, I learned something, that one of the reasons why I was slower in that race, or one way that I could become faster in that race, was that the elevation gain in that race was quite low grade, much lower grade than I'm used to. I'm used to, steep climbs, steep descents, but this race was like low and slow, lots of ups and lots of downs, all of which that could be runnable, but I wasn't trained for that. So on a lot of the uphills that were runnable, I ended up walking quite a bit. And there was a desire of mine after that experience to learn how to run on those uphills, to train my body, train my mind to be able to run on those runnable uphills. So I spent the entire summer working on that. Anytime I hit some elevation, I would run as long as I could and then stop to a power walk whenever I needed to. Eventually, I came across this race, the 100K. I didn't know about it. I stumbled across as I was just looking at races longingly, seeing what else I could do the rest of the year that might make me excited. And then I found this race, the Wild Goose 100K, in the same park that I did my 50 mile. And instantly I felt a spark of excitement. And I wasn't sure if my training was ready for it. So I asked my coach and he said, well, what's the cutoff time? And the cutoff time was 36 hours. So he's like, oh yeah, just go for it. Like at worst case scenario, you could hike it. So I thought, all right, let's do this. I signed up and I became immediately excited again. And all of the rest of the summer, I felt so excited having this goal to work towards and having this new distance to take on. And interestingly enough, because it's not 100 mile, it's 100K, it was only 9 miles longer than the longest distance I've done, which was 53 miles. So part of me felt like really excited for this distance and not like absolutely terrified like I would feel if I were going into a 100 mile. So the night before this 100K race, my mom is crewing me. She wants to get there early, which I love because I want to get there early as well. And this weekend is a trail festival, so they do not hold back. They put together so many incredible events on Friday and allow runners to come as early as 2 p.m., even though there were no races starting on Friday, which was just incredible. So we decided to plan to get there for 2 p.m., which we did. And we scoped out where we wanted to set up the pop-up tent where she would be set up for my aid every loop that I would come through the next day. And then we scoped out this like remote area of the camping where we set up our tents, and it was by this beautiful lake. Oh my gosh, it was so gorgeous. I'll share some photos on the YouTube as well, so you'll be able to see this is where we camped. It was just so beautiful. And she brought these zero gravity chairs, and that night we laid in them and I sipped on my mushroom hot chocolate filled with magnesium, sipping that, looking at literally the stars coming out. It was picture perfect. And prior to that, all throughout the day, they had different panels and sharing different talks. They played a movie, which we didn't go to because I wanted to get to sleep early, but they were like making popcorn for the movie. It was just such an incredible event. And something that was so cool for me was that normally the night before a race, I'm filled with anticipation and maybe some nerves and just anticipation of knowing what's coming, knowing that it's going to be hard, knowing that it's going to be painful, knowing that I'm going to have to face some challenges. And being immersed in a festival like that was so magical because it kind of normalized the experience that I was going to have. It wasn't just me and my own thoughts and what's ahead. Instead, I was surrounded by people that were also going to do this thing. And we were all talking about it as if it's totally normal, because it is for us. It's not for the rest of the world, but it is for us. And that seemed to dissolve any nerves or even anticipation and just turn it into pure excitement. I was so excited, and being there really helped cultivate that. So I'm really grateful to the event itself for providing that for me, because I think it was such a new way to experience a race, and I loved it. I brought a cushy setup in my tent. I had a cot with my camping, backpacking, overnight air mattress, which is really comfortable. But I also brought an old sleeping bag, those thick, cushy sleeping bags. And I brought one of those to lay on top of, and brought pillows and blankets. I had such a wonderful setup because I knew I wanted to sleep well the night before, but I really knew that my body would be pretty uncomfortable after the race. And I expected that I would finish somewhere between 16 hours and 20 hours, which the race start was at 7 a.m. So that would put me finishing at like 11 p.m. or late into the night. So I knew that my body would be uncomfortable and I would just crawl to my tent, and I needed something supportive and soft for my poor hips. And so I had this set up. It was great. I was so excited about it. I slept wonderful the night before. I woke up having a race start at 7 a.m. So I woke up at 5, my normal time, and I had 2 hours to relax. I got to eat my breakfast, sit and sip some electrolytes, relax a little bit, calm my body, calm my nervous system, and then get dressed, get everything set up in the pop-up tent. And by the time it was start time, I was like just relaxed and ready to go. It was magic. So we stand behind the start line, and the races that are taking place, the same as mine, are 100-mile, 100k, a 36-hour timed event, which means you have 36 hours to do as many loops as you want, as many miles as you want. You can take as many breaks as you want. You could run the entire time. It's entirely up to you. And a 50-mile. And we were all starting at 7 a.m. So we were all lined up in the chute at the start, hearing the announcements, and I was filled with pure excitement and joy. This was totally new for me. Normally, I'm still filled with some anticipation, some nerves. I'm excited, but this day was full joy. I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to spend the day in nature. It was a picture perfect September day, like blue skies, beautiful colors on the trees, lots of greens, lots of maroons, lots of light oranges and yellows starting to turn. It was absolutely gorgeous. And the temperature was perfect. I think it was around 50 degrees when we started. So it was a little bit chilly, which was absolutely perfect. And it warmed up to about 72 midday and went back down at night. So it was just the perfect running weather. And I was so grateful for that. And I was just excited to be able to spend the entire day out in nature. Before I took on the race, I set a couple of intentions, as I always do, asking myself, which this is something I highly recommend that you do before you do any event. Even do this before you go away, before you're going to do a training. I love to take the moment and ask myself, what would I love to experience? What do I want to let go of? What do I want to create? What do I want to focus on? What would I love to get out of this? So I brainstormed some of those questions and journaled to each one of them, and realized what I wanted was to let myself be fast, which I did not say out loud. I wrote this only in my journal, but I read it back afterwards as well. And I saw I wanted to be free to be fast. Like I didn't want to hold back out of fear of being too fast, or fear of bonking and hitting some low moments. I knew that I could handle anything that comes. I have a lot of experience in racing now. I have a lot of experience getting through lows, getting through mental lows, emotional lows, physical lows, pain, suffering. I know how to get through it all. So I knew that I could handle whatever would come. And so I just wanted to be free to be fast. I was really curious to see what it would feel like to push myself, to make it so that I wouldn't have the same experience that I had in the escarpment, where I would finish having maybe PR'd, maybe moved at a fast pace, but still felt like I had so much left to give. I did not want to finish the race that way. And part of me was nervous about pushing myself to that degree, to go there, to go to a place where it might hurt more than I'm used to, where I might have a new experience of a new feeling in my body of what it feels like to run faster throughout a long distance. But I really wanted to try it, or I wanted to be available to try it anyway. That was part of my intention. And the other part of my intention was to truly, truly receive. That's something that I've been working on personally, of allowing myself to receive and knowing that we are all worthy of receiving. And so I really wanted to fully, fully receive all the support and the love and the thoughts and the cheering and all of the things, and receive the beauty of the day, receive wonderful opportunities, receive insights. I just wanted to receive. That was my intention. I wanted to be free to be fast, and I wanted to receive the love and the support. And my mom was there crewing me, and her friend Catherine came. Shout out to you, Catherine. I know you listen to this podcast. Thank you so much for being there. It was such a gift. Both of you, I know you listen to this podcast. Shout out to both of you. Thank you for being there. I have no words to describe how incredibly wonderful it was to have you there. But they truly were such a support. And I wanted to really let myself be supported and truly receive that support. It's time to start this race. My mom is standing there taking pictures. She's smiling at me. And the countdown begins. I have my watch ready to go. I'm ready to hit start. And the horn blows. I don't even remember what it was that signified the start. It started. The crowd started moving, and eventually I came across the start-finish line and hit start on my watch, and we were off. And right away, I just wanted to start passing people, so I did. And the first 2 miles, we were all running together on a road, so it was lots of space to pass each other, and I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't get stuck behind people going a slower pace than I wanted to go once we hit the woods in a single track where it's really hard to pass people. So I made sure to find the people that were going my pace, and I passed quite a few people until I found that one sweet spot. And then half the group went straight and half the group turned, and I was part of the group that turned. And the way this race was structured, there were 3 loops: the pink loop, which was 7.75 miles, the checkered loop, which was the flattest of the 3, which was 4.45 miles, and then the blue loop, which was also kind of ups and downs and some technical spots, just like the pink loop, which was 6 miles. And we did it as such. We did pink, checkered, blue, pink, checkered, and we did that twice. So then we did another round of pink, checkered, blue, pink, checkered. So I finished on the flattest, shortest loop, which was cool. And I did the pink and the checkered loop the most. The blue loop we only did twice. The other 2 we did 4 times. So we started out on the pink loop, and I loved it. And I was cruising. I felt incredible, and I was moving at a pace about 9 minutes, 30 seconds, which is something I don't do in races. Usually, my anticipated pace for this race was, my goal would be to have somewhere between an average of a 14-minute mile to a 15-minute mile. And that, factors in stops, that factors in walk times, walking uphill, all of the things. But in this moment, I was running a 9-minute 30, and it felt light and effortless. It didn't feel like I was redlining or pushing my body too much. It just felt right. And there was some part of me that was like, you shouldn't run this fast. You know better than that. You know that it's not good to go too fast in the beginning. And the other part of me said, no, we're okay. We're okay here. We're going to go with this. In smaller races, anything under 50 miles for me, I have this strategy where I choose to just meet my energy where it is. So if I have energy, I use it. And if I don't have energy, I slow down. And I've never had the courage to do that in a 50-mile race, or longer in this case. And this was part of my intention, was to let myself do that. So I had the energy, and I chose to use it. When I asked a group of my running friends what advice they have for me, and one of them said, run fast, take lots of chances. And I loved it because it fit so perfectly with my intention. And it was something like, oh my gosh, yeah. And races past, I would be nervous to take chances. I would be trying to be respecting the distance, which, to be fair, is exactly what I needed for my fitness level at the time. But in actuality, my fitness level now is so much higher, and I have so much more preparation, so much more experience, that I don't need to be so timid anymore. I had his mantra in my head of run fast, take lots of chances. And anytime I started to be like, uh-oh, I shouldn't go this fast, I would just say, let's take a chance. Run fast, take this chance, see what happens. So I chose to go with it. And I was running with this pack of men, and there was one woman that we were running together for the entire pink loop. And it felt fantastic. It was such a great pace. And, there were a couple people that passed me on that loop. I passed a bunch of people on that loop, just kind of finding our groove. I was hit with so much joy. After my watch chimed at mile 2, I thought back to my Uncle Brian, who had through hiked the Appalachian Trail when I was in high school. And he gave me the advice during my very first 50-mile race to chunk it down into small goals and not think about the entirety of what you're taking on, because it's just too much for the mind to conceive of. So instead, chunk it down to tiny little wins. And when you hit those tiny little wins, celebrate them. Think about what you've just accomplished and then work on the next little chunk. So I thought of him. He was there with me while I hit mile 2 and thought, woohoo, like I've got 2 miles down. That means I never have to do 62 miles ever again. I only have 60 miles left. I choose to really focus on what I've achieved as opposed to what's ahead. But something about the number being like, I don't have to run 62 miles anymore. That feels really light to me. Rather than saying I have 60 miles left to run, it's I don't have 62 miles left anymore. Like that's no longer it. And then 4 miles pass, and 5 miles pass, and 6 miles pass. That number goes down, and it's like, oh my gosh, I no longer have 60 miles to run anymore. I now have 55 miles to run. Wow. So I'm finishing out this first loop, and there's a woman in front of me, a girl, she's younger, and she was cruising my exact pace. I was right behind her nearly the entire first loop. We both come into the aid station. I'm so excited. And I had literally taken a chance, took a gamble because of the way the structure of this race was, on using new shoes. I got brand new shoes that came literally the day before, and I ran 1 2-mile run in them as a little tester. On that first loop, my pinky toe was rubbing against this one little spot, and it was going to become a problem. If I didn't address it, I would have a pretty bad blister by the end of the day, probably within the next loop or 2. So I didn't want to take the time to take my shoe off and my socks off so early, but I knew I had to. And that's something that's so important in ultra runs, in ultra marathons, is you have to take care of issues early. As soon as you notice the tiniest little issue, you must take care of it. I know you don't want to take the time, but if you take the time to take care of it now, it won't become a bigger issue that could cost you so much more time later on. So I sat down, I came in really fast, sat down, pulled off my shoe, pulled off my sock, asked my mom and Catherine for some Leukotape, which is what I use, wrapped some Leukotape around my pinky, and I thought, I'm going to give it another shot on this next loop. And if it's still bothering me, then I'm going to have to change my shoes. And I had other shoes that work well for me. They're just pretty beat up, and I wasn't sure if they would last throughout the 62 miles. So I had another backup pair just in case, which I really don't like. They're too narrow in the toes, but they're grippy otherwise. So I knew at last resort I could use those other shoes that would probably cost me some toenails, but I knew it would be okay. So I thought, I'm going to give this one more loop and see what happens. So I put the shoe on, and as soon as I start running again, the pain is completely gone. My toe is completely okay, and I'm filled with relief. Oh my gosh. So I take off on this loop. This is the checkered loop, the flattest of the loops, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's running by this beautiful like meadow swamp situation with all these plants and wildflowers. I'll share a video picture on the YouTube. It is so gorgeous. And as I'm running, there are these 2 guys that kind of come up behind me. And there's some trail etiquette in ultras that when you pass someone or someone passes you, we say nice job or good work. And I just love it. It's such a lift. It's nice. It's just such a wonderful community, the trail community is. So these 2 guys are coming up behind me, and I just decide to say, hey, like, how's it going? figuring if they were running really fast, they would say, "Good, how are you?" And then they'd keep going. But if they were running a pace similar to me, it was kind of an open invitation to chat. And they ended up running at my pace, and we were chatting for a few miles. It was so wonderful. Had a great conversation with them. And it was really interesting because one of the guys was asking me what my goal was for that day, if I had a goal. And all three of us, it was our very first 100K. And I said, well, this is my first 100K, so my first goal is just curious to see what happens. But the time I'm hoping to get to is 16 hours. In my head, I had a secret wish that I could get under 16 hours, but I thought that I probably would get somewhere around 15 hours at best. 16 hours would be a good goal. And then if things didn't go well, then it would be over 16 hours. So I said to him, I'm like, yeah, like I'm hoping for right around 16 hours or under. And as soon as I said that, he chuckled. And he's like, well, you're running a pace that's much faster than that. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess I am. And there was some awareness in me that said, you're going to finish this race a lot faster than 16 miles. And I just said back to him, like, yeah, but I don't know how long I'll keep this pace up. Like, who knows? There's a lot of race left. And he's like, yeah, that's fair. I'm like, but you're right. I probably will finish sooner, but we'll see what happens. And when I asked him what his goal was, he said somewhere around 10 hours, which that's the pace that we're running right now. And I was like, oh my, okay, that's a different story. But I knew I probably wouldn't keep up that pace specifically the entire day. So I come back to the aid station, tell my mom and Catherine that my toe is fine. I'm in and out of there super quick, head out for my 6-mile loop, the blue loop. And as I'm out there, my left hip flexor, which I had kind of tweaked a week before, gets angry. And the interesting thing about pain, and this goes outside of ultras, this is just what we do as humans. When pain comes, we automatically assume that it's here to stay, and we assume that it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So when pain comes, we automatically start getting filled with anticipation or fear or worry, thinking, what if this gets worse? Not realizing that we can handle it right now, but we're afraid of the moment when we can't handle it later, or what it will cost us later when it gets worse. What will we not be able to do when it gets worse? So this happens to me, and I've known and studied and explored this experience and sensation in ultras many times before. So I knew it was coming and I was quick to observe it, but I noticed my mind started worrying that I wouldn't be able to keep up a pace, worrying that I would slow way down, worrying that I would in fact finish this race over 16 hours, worrying that I might actually cause damage to my hip and maybe have to drop out sooner. And then I reminded myself of this phenomenon. And the thing with pain is, yes, there are times when it does increase, but there's a lot of times when it doesn't. And there are even times when it goes away entirely. And in ultras, I've experienced this many, many times before. If you are open to it, pain can go away. I find that if we harp on it with our minds, if we attach to it and label the day as that this isn't my day anymore, or my hip hurts and I'm screwed this day, and we give up on having a good day, then I think we keep it there and it stays there. But if we remain open and curious to maybe it goes away, or maybe it just stays the same. That's a question that I ask myself too. Well, can you handle this? And I say, yes. And then I ask, well, what if it stays like this all day and it never gets worse? And immediately I feel a flood of relief. Like, oh, well, yeah, it would be uncomfortable. It would be annoying, but I can handle this. If this is how it's going to feel all day, I can handle that. And then I like to ask the next question, which is the complete opposite of what if it gets worse? I ask myself, well, what if it gets better? And whenever I ask that question, a feeling of softening and expansion comes. And I think that this is such a powerful tool to ask ourselves in any area of our lives when we're faced with pain, whether it be mental pain, physical pain, emotional pain. If we ask ourselves, can I handle this right now? Yes. What if it stays just like this? Well, then I'll be okay. And what if it even gets better? Then we're free to entertain that possibility. And so I allowed myself to entertain that possibility. And I stayed with that pain, and it was constant for a little while. And there was one moment where my foot hooked on a rock, which made me kind of trip a little bit and really engage my hip flexors to catch me. And when I did, it made me like wince out in pain. It was like a sharp pain right there. And I thought, oh man, this is a little intense. But I allowed it to be there, and I continued to explore the sensation and recognized how strong I felt otherwise. And I also recognized that I was moving pretty fast. And chances are this feeling was there just because I was moving at a faster pace than I'm used to. So it's just a feeling of a muscle that is getting worked a lot, right? Then I come across this one uphill. And as I'm moving on this uphill, I need to mention that I had not walked a single moment this entire race, which was also telling me that that might be why my hip flexor was a little cranky, because it's not used to running that much in a race. I'm used to walking on the uphills, running on the flats and the downs. And in this race, every single uphill that I encountered, I could run. There was no climbs that were like super steep or anything. They were all just undulating ups and downs. The total elevation gain throughout the entire 62 miles was, I don't know, somewhere around 6,500 feet. So there was still elevation, but it was all like low and slow, ebbing and flowing. It just occurred to me in this moment as I came across this one climb that I chose. It was a little bit steeper than all the others, and I chose to still run it. And I felt like totally fine running it. My heart rate was pretty low. I had all the power I needed to do it. It was a little bit more effortful, made me a little bit more winded, but I also was recognized that the feeling of windedness was nothing compared to climbing a really steep, relentless mountain in the Catskills. That feeling of suffering was so much more intense than what I was experiencing here. And that gave me comfort. Every time I started to feel like a little wave of exhaustion or fatigue or a little hint of suffering, I would still compare it and think back to my 53-mile race, Manitou's Revenge in the Catskills, that was filled with suffering that was so much worse than this. And that gave me so much power as well. And as I'm just running up this uphill, I come across that one woman that was the same exact pace as me in the first loop. And I had seen her again in the second loop. And I came across her, and now she wasn't running this time. She was walking, and I passed her. And I never saw her again. And the thing about looped races is you have no idea what place you're in. You have no idea, because you come into the aid stations and you have no idea how long the other person is out there. Someone could pass you and you could assume that they're ahead of you the entire time. And yet they are in the bathroom when you come in the aid station, and then you take off and you pass them, but you have no idea. And then you never see them the rest of the day, always assuming that they're ahead of you, but now they're behind you, or vice versa. So you have no idea what place you're in. I come into the aid station and I change my socks, because it's really, really wonderful to change your socks. And the last race I did not change my socks because I felt like I didn't really need to. And I ended up getting a little bit of trench foot. So this time it was in my plan to change my socks. I come in to change them, and I had the thought, I don't need to. My feet feel dry. They're fine. And I said, no, we're doing this. Let's stop. Let's use the opportunity to take a quick break to sit while I change my shoes. And that I was interested in. So I sat down, changed my shoes, changed my socks, not my shoes, put on new socks, got out there, and immediately it felt wonderful. Oh my gosh, the smallest little things go so far. I was delighted by the feeling of my feet. It felt like they were like warm and toasty and on soft clouds. It was incredible. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I changed them. And kept going. And it dawned on me that my hip flexor pain was completely gone. Absolutely gone. Not a single sensation was in my hip flexor. Not one. And I was marveling at that sensation, marveling at that experience, in awe of what our human bodies go through, and also in awe of pain, that we assume that it's constant, but it often is not. That being said, other aches started creeping in, my quads in general. Both quads were feeling it. Not like extreme pain, but I was just feeling it. As I keep going, I start getting woozy, which to me, usually wooziness means that I don't have enough calories or don't have enough salt. And now looking back with my clear-headed brain, I realized that both things were true. But in that moment, I was woozy and I was getting confused, which also goes along with the territory. But I was confused. I got a new watch and the settings, like the display screen, is different than I'm used to. And I hadn't really realized that until this race. And it was messing with my brain. So I was kind of getting confused about when I last took salt, when I last took food, and felt like I was messing up the time. Then I thought so much time went by, but really it didn't. I kept getting confused and kept second guessing myself. And I know I could have just pulled out my phone and looked at the actual time, which I did do. But something about every time I pulled out my phone and looked at the actual time and put it away, it didn't stick in my brain. It was just a really weird phenomenon. I was confused. I was woozy. And then my hands were getting puffy, which is another sign of not having enough electrolytes, enough salt. But I've also experienced having too much salt in Manitou's Revenge. And I noticed that the same symptoms were true, that I was woozy and my fingers were swelling. And so I got scared in this moment of, did I have too much salt or not enough? Because I couldn't really remember how much I had taken or when I last took it. I was getting confused. And so I thought, well, let me just start by taking some salt. Let me take a gel. Let me take some calories, see how this goes. And it continued. The wooziness stayed. The puffiness stayed. I came into the aid station. I came to my mom. She's like, what can we get you? What do we need? What do you need? And I couldn't answer. I was like, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know if I have too much salt or not enough salt. I was really craving plain water, not any water with any flavoring in it. So I thought maybe that means I have too much salt. So let's just try sipping on some plain water during this next loop. So I did. And I went to the main aid station, which had lots of food options and such. And I was just looking to see if there was anything. And I really just wanted like an ice cube. My mouth felt so thirsty and wanted something cold. So I asked if they had an ice cube, and they did. And oh my gosh, it felt like it was chilling down my entire body from the inside out, which, I guess it was. But I didn't really feel hot. But that experience, that sensation of this cold, cold water, like rinsing my mouth, just felt like heaven, absolute blissful heaven. I was like moaning in joy and bliss at how wonderful it felt. And my mom came with a couple of cold, wet paper towels and just like wiped down my body. And then she's like, why don't you try a grilled cheese? So I grabbed a grilled cheese to take with me, and that did it. Prior to that, I was also starting to feel a little bit queasy, which I also know that nausea and vomiting can be a sign of not enough calories. So I was aware that maybe I needed a little more calories. The combination of an ice cube, grilled cheese, cold, wet paper towels was like medicine. I felt so much better. I felt like a new woman. And a little while later, my mom texted me saying like, feeling better? And I was like, yes, like so much better. So I was just moving at a great pace again, which in that moment, I noticed that even when I was woozy and even when I was confused, my pace only slowed to about 11-minute miles, sometimes 12-minute miles on the uphills, maybe the occasional 13-minute mile on a really big uphill. But I didn't stop running, which that's new for me. Prior to this, if I ever hit lows, I would slow down to a walk, or my run would be so slow. And I didn't let that happen this time. That was not happening. And it wasn't even really a conscious force. It wasn't like, no, you have to run faster. I just was, which was new. And I think that's an indication of the new fitness level I've had. And the new practice that I've been doing all summer long on some speed work and hill training, all of it. So I feel like a new woman. I'm just full on pure joy, running, enjoying this loop. It is a magical loop. The sun is high overhead. It's warmer, but it's never like, it's not super hot or anything. Like I was very comfortable, just enjoying the day. And all day long, I'm passing people. At this point, aside from the first loop, maybe one or two people pass me. Other than that, I'm passing many people, coming across people that are walking, passing them. Coming across people that are running slower, passing them. And I'm aware of this. But I don't really let myself entertain that thought, because there's, in that awareness is thinking, you're running this so much faster than you thought. You thought your average would be 14 or 15 minute miles. You have been running consistently 10-minute miles, 9:30, 11-minute miles, sometimes 12, sometimes 13. All of that does not average to 15 miles. And I was aware of this. And I was also aware of the fact that I was passing people, not being passed, which I'm used to. But I did not dare entertain the thought, because I knew anything can happen. Anything can happen. I could hit an extreme wall, or I could have such a strong pain in my body that I need to walk, or I could start vomiting or something. And I knew that all of that could slow me down. So let's not even entertain the thought of how fast we're going. Let's just keep staying here now. And I kept telling myself, be here now. Be here now. Notice the feeling of the ground now, my feet on the ground now. Notice the colors around me. Look at the beauty. Be here for the beauty. Another intention of mine was to be there for the magic. I'm here for the magic. It's part of my mantra that I tell myself. I'm strong. I'm brave. I trust the land. I'm connected to my body. I'm here for magic. And I would say that, and every time I would just start seeing this beauty around me. There's one tunnel of rhododendron that you run through that's just magical. And it feels like there's like these magical beings that are greeting you as you run through them. It's just, oh my gosh, I can totally geek out on the spirituality of it all, but it really was profoundly spiritual for me, running through these living trees and plants. And there was one moment where there were these two ravens that were making this sound right above my head, and two other runners were nearby, and they did not react to it at all. I don't think they were aware of it. And it just felt like these two ravens were speaking to me, that I was receiving this message from these two ravens, making a sound that I've never heard them make. And I know ravens make tons of sounds, but I was aware of this new sound. It was so loud, and it was right overhead, and they were giant, giant ravens. Absolutely gorgeous. What an incredible experience. I come back into the aid station and I'm woozy again. Not as bad as before. My hands are still puffy, and I'm starting to wonder, maybe I've gone too far in the other direction. Maybe now I am under on salt. I'm not sure. So I get some things at my aid station. I'm thinking that I have a 6-mile loop next. So I was thinking like, yeah, we don't need to get many things. Just like replace my gels. I'll go and grab something at the aid station. It's only 6 miles. We'll be back pretty soon. And I go to the aid station, and normally my fueling strategy is 1 gel per hour and 1 real food per hour. And I alternate with real food between sweet and savory. And that keeps my stomach good. I don't get too overloaded on all the sweet that way. And the gels I use aren't very sweet either. I use UCAN gels, which are not sweet whatsoever. And I also use BPN Go gels, which are sweet, but I alternate between those, so I never get like too burnt out on sweet. It's a great strategy. So I come to the aid station and I think, let me get some Coke, because I hate Coke in real life. I've never been a soda drinker, but in ultras, it tastes like pure medicine. And it is. It's filled with tons of sugar, salt, caffeine, all of which you need when you're running long distances. So I'm like, can I have some Coke? Like, I just want a little taste just to see how it feels. And he's like, yeah, of course. Like, is your stomach okay? And I say, yeah, I think so. I'm just woozy. And he's like, what mile are you? And I look at my watch and I see 44 miles. So I tell him. And there was a guy behind him that looks up in surprise. And he's like, what race are you in? And I say, 100k. And he goes, oh, you got this in the bag. And I'm like, woo! I raise my arms up above my head like, dang, you're right. I think I do. Like, that is impressive, isn't it? And I see the looks on their faces that I'm at mile 44 so early in the day at the 100K. Like, that aware part of myself was also thinking, yeah, you're not finishing in 16 hours. But we still won't entertain that thought, because we know anything can still happen. We still have, 18 miles to go, but 18 miles to go is way less than 62 miles. I can handle quite a lot for 18 miles at this point in my running journey now. He says, yeah, you probably need to eat at this point. So I'm thinking, yeah, I probably am low on calories. And looking back now with my conscious fueled brain, I can see that I was running so much faster than I normally do. So I was burning calories faster than I normally do. And I was underfueled on electrolytes. I did not have enough salt. I've done the calculation since, and I can tell. I was confused in that moment and I just could not tell. Now I can tell. But in that moment, I was low on calories. So he ended up giving me scratch high carb, like liquid calories, which was a godsend. So I sipped that for the next loop, which is not sweet at all. And it felt like it was just restoring my body back to health. And I lost the wooziness. And I don't think I got the wooziness again the rest of the day. So I went out for that loop though, and I realized that I was not doing the 6-mile loop. I was doing the 7.75-mile loop, which means that I did not bring any savory food with me. And I really didn't bring anything else with me. I had this high carb drink, which was great. But I was just aware of the fact that previous to that, I'd had sweet and gels and sweet and gels, and I didn't break it up with savory. I'm moving at a slower pace, and I'm aware that it's the slower pace, but I tell myself, okay, this is going to be the slowest loop. After this, I'm going to be picking it back up again. And I come back into the aid station, and my mom says, "You made great time." I was like, no, I can't have. That was so slow. She says, "No, it was only 5 minutes longer than the last time you did that loop." I was blown away because it felt like I did it double as long. I felt like I was moving so much slower, but I wasn't, which was insane. So I keep going. And as I'm going on the next loop, my legs get really painful. That there's this spot right above my knee that is just flared up from being used. My quads in general were just really sore. My calves were really sore. And I started exploring pain in the way that I've done before in ultras and a way that I do in my everyday life. And I highly suggest that you do too, which is to process the pain and to be aware of how you're immediately reacting to pain. It's so wonderful. One of my friends, Ty, shout out to you, Ty. Thank you so much for all of your help that day. He sent me a quote from the book Mind Sight, which I love, or he sent an anecdote from this book. He said, "Keep in mind the part about our life as a river with rigidity on one bank and chaos on the other. Stay in the flow in the middle. Rigidity is the suppression of feelings. Chaos is being overrun by feelings and emotions." I love this analogy, and it's something that I think is so useful to practice in a yoga practice as well, and really learn the technique of processing pain and emotions and struggle and not being rigid with them, avoiding them or suppressing them, and not being overrun by them in chaos with them, but processing them, which is being in the flow, which is observing them, letting them be there, and being able to discern the difference between the kind of pain that's your body telling you that something is ripping, something is tearing, something is breaking, versus discomfort, which means this is the pain that is making you stronger. This is the pain that is releasing you of old things you no longer need. This is the pain that we need. So as my legs were hurting so bad, I'm also aware of a technique of processing pain, which is to observe the pain and describe it using sensational words, because we have a tendency to just label pain as pain. And when you just label this as pain, it's really hard to tolerate. But when you get more curious and ask yourself, what if I didn't have the word pain? How would I describe this? And immediately the word that appeared was ache. And I thought, well, that's still too close to hurt and pain. So what if I didn't have the word ache? How would I describe the sensation around my quad and knee? And I was stumped at first. I didn't have words. And that's a real magical moment when we describe sensation, is because then I had to just really be present with it, really get curious about it, which means I wasn't suppressing it and I wasn't overrun by it. I was right in the flow with it, breathing, observing, studying it. And I came across a description which was dull because it wasn't poignant. There wasn't one tiny little sharp spot or anything. It was kind of a broader sensation. Bright, meaning that it was bright. It was kind of like in my face. It was louder. Pressure. Dull, bright pressure. And I'm kind of proud about this because it's like, wow, yeah, that really is such an accurate description of the feeling. And then when you describe it like that, it also becomes so much more tolerable, because then I think, oh, well, can I handle dull, bright pressure? Well, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. So I experience it, I breathe with it, I flow with it, and time goes by. Come in the aid station where I only have 3 laps left, meaning I have 1 more lap of blue, pink, checkered. And there's something really refreshing about I get to do each one of these for the last time and just really appreciate them and look at all the beauty and take it in and take in the sights. There's only 1 more time of each. And I say to my mom as I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, what time is it? And I don't remember the time, but it was early. And I was like, I'm definitely going to be finishing in under 16 hours. And my mom and Catherine are like, oh yeah, we already know, we've calculated it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it too much because anything can still happen. But even if this takes me like another 3 hours, I'm still going to be finishing way under the time that I thought. And they're like, yeah. And the way they said it, so assured, like, yeah, of course. Like, we already know this. We've already been there. We've already gone through that, was also such a boost. It was like, okay, wow. All right, this is real. This is happening. I'm moving at a crazy fast rate, so much faster than I ever dreamed of. So I go out for the next loop. And as I come in after that next loop, I'm about to hit the 50-mile mark. And remember, the last 50 mile I did in April, which is in this very park on this similar terrain. There was a couple sections that were exactly the same that I ran on. I did it in 12 hours and 20 minutes. I'm about to hit 50 miles. And it's only 10 hours and 20 minutes in. I'm blown away. I am so blown away that the thought occurred to me that I was like, wait, have I cheated? Did I like skip a loop? Have I done a few like smaller loops or something? And then I started laughing because I'm like, wait, no, my watch is literally showing me the miles that I've traveled. The watch isn't going according to the loops that I've taken. So I said, no, according to my watch, I literally have traveled over or just around 50 miles, and it is 10 hours and 20 minutes in. Oh my gosh, I'm stunned. I'm in awe. I'm like, what? How is this happening? I come into the aid station. I tell that to my mom and Catherine, and they're so excited for me. We're like cheering at this idea that I've PR'd my 50-mile time by 2 hours. Like, oh my gosh, a 10-hour, 20-minute 50-mile. That's insane. Never dreamed I could do that. So I head out. And as I'm heading out, there's people cheering, there's people at this aid station that have been there all day. And I'm just so excited that I'm like filled with joy that people are cheering for me. And then because I'm excited, more people cheer for me. And it was just this wonderful thing. And it's something that I've really played around with, that I find that people cheering for you is actually quite a vulnerable experience. Have you ever noticed that? That if you're in a sports arena where everyone is cheering, it's not vulnerable at all to cheer. It's part of the experience. The entire group is doing it together. But if you see a random runner and it's not the appropriate time to cheer, meaning it's not the finish line or it's not at a specific section where everyone is cheering, you're the only one that can cheer for this person, it's kind of vulnerable. It's like, ooh, like, should I cheer? I don't know if I should. And I've noticed this over the years, that just in being in races and seeing straggler hikers look unsure if they want to cheer or not. And then if they do, they kind of like cheer a little bit, like testing it out. So on this day, and my intention to receive support, I chose to receive every cheer fully and like give it back to them. So I smile and I say thank you. And sometimes I cheer along with them. And it is so amazing the impact that has on other people. When someone is vulnerable cheering and then you go all in and you cheer back with them, like they get so happy and they get so bright. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to make people happy. Like there's just such a wonderful gift that I get to do. And then I get it so much. It's like this wonderful exchange that we all get to feel good in this moment because you chose to cheer for me and I chose to receive it fully. What a beautiful thing. So I'm like cheering as I'm running through the chute, heading out to go out for my second to last loop. And people are cheering back and I'm just enjoying it. I'm just totally enjoying it. I chose this day to not ever stifle my joy. In the past, I used to feel small around my joy, that, oh, if I was, more courageous right now, I would throw my arms in the air because I'm feeling so happy now. And on this day, I chose to throw my arms in the air in joy at random times, regardless of who was around me, just to expand joy and to let myself have it and to never stifle my joy. And it is remarkable what happens. I think it has such a positive impact on other people. And even if it doesn't, who cares? When you expand your joy, it just touches everybody else in such a beautiful way. But you deserve regardless of how other people are affected, you deserve the opportunity to expand your own joy. You get to have more of it when you give into it. So I was just loving it. I went out for my second to last loop. I am running faster and my stomach is starting to get really gurgly. And I realize how much sweet I'd had that day, not a whole lot of savory. And I think that my gut is starting to turn on me a little bit. And luckily there was a bathroom that was out in the middle of this loop. So I stop and use it. And I, not to get too graphic, but it was false alarms. So my stomach was just gurgly, false alarms, but it was getting kind of uncomfortable, getting kind of bloated. But I just was like, well, we'll just keep dealing with it. Let's just keep going. And I kept experiencing this really strange phenomenon where I'd get hit with an intense pang of hunger, simultaneously a wave of nausea. And it would just be so intense and so immediate out of nowhere that I would be like, oh my gosh, I need to eat immediately. Otherwise, I felt like if I didn't, I would start throwing up. So I grabbed a gel or grabbed a gummy or grabbed a stroopwafel, all of which were sweet, but it's what I had, and ate it, and then it would feel immediately better. And I kept having that wave-like experience pretty much the rest of the race. I finished the second to last loop, come in to the aid station, totally blown away at how early it is, grab my headlamp because it's just starting to get dark now, and I only have 4.45 miles left. And I turned to my mom, and earlier during that last loop, it dawned on me that we would be finishing so much earlier that it would be really cool if we could drive home tonight. But I didn't want to ask her that because, she'd been crewing me all day long, and it's a 2-hour drive to my house and then another 35 minutes to her house. Like that's a tall order. And as soon as I come into the aid station, she says, "Do you want to go home tonight?" And I'm like, yes, I do. And she's like, "I've got you. We're going to pack everything up and we'll go home tonight. You go out and do your last loop." So I'm like so excited. I text Chris, my husband, and say, only 4.45 miles left. We're coming home tonight. And he's like, holy crap, that's so fast. I'm like, I know. So I go out and I am on cloud nine. I'm filled with joy. My face is beaming and it's dusk now. So I have my headlamp, but it's not on. It's starting to get a little dark. I just heard someone talk about seeing a bear recently. And so part of me was a little bit nervous about being in the dark, but I knew that it's okay. Just look where your light is showing, one step at a time, and enjoy being in the dark because there's also some magic to running in the dark, running at night in the woods. It's quite magical. So I decide to just enjoy it. And I tell myself, I'm just going to run it fast, like I would go out for a fast 4-mile run. So I'm running fast. I'm enjoying it. And then my friend Ty sends me a little message that says, "What remaining firsts can you collect along the way?" And this was so mind-blowing to me because I had been enjoying these last 3 loops looking at the lasts. Like, ooh, that's the last time I'm going to see that tree, so let me really enjoy it. That's the last time I'll ever have to do that stretch. I don't ever have to run that stretch ever again if I don't want to. Constantly focusing on the lasts. And then him flipping that concept entirely was such a cool thing because then I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, there are opportunities for firsts on this loop that I've done 4 times today, where this is the 4th time. And I'm in my last 4.45 miles of a 62-mile race, there's still opportunity for firsts. And so as soon as he said that, I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, this is the first time I get to see the sky darkening. This is the first time I get to see the sun setting. This is the first time I get to see the darkness awaken. This is the first time I get to see this rock shining in my headlamp. It was so cool. Thank you so much, Ty. Like, that was such a cool thing. It brought so much joy and so much more magic to the experience. And oh my gosh, there were so many other times. My best friend Leanne had texted me at one point in the lowest moment where I was just like really dragging, and she just texted me in all caps, "Go Mears." We call each other Mears. That's a long story. "Go Mears." And I could see it come up on my watch. And it was like, yes, you knew exactly when to send that. And my other friend Siri, right before I started my last loop, said, "Look out for the magic." And that was also such a great reminder right as it started getting dark, where there was a little bit of nerves about being in the dark, was like, wait, no, there's so much magic out here for me to find. So I'm going and my stomach is getting so gurgly and getting so queasy. And I'm thinking, okay, this is TMI, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to puke or poop my pants. One of the two is going to happen. And I really don't want it to happen. And so I'm just like, just keep going. Just keep going. Just the faster you move, the faster we'll get to the finish. But also when your stomach is like that, the faster you run, the faster it will happen. So it's kind of a catch-22, but I was doing it anyway, just kept going. And, my goal as a trail runner and as a podcaster and as a teacher is to always not just show you the highlights, but to show you the low moments. So I'm going to share a little TMI, but I think we all love a good poop story secretly. So this isn't a good poop story, but it's a poop story nonetheless. And I'm going and I'm thinking, the first few miles on the checkered loop is on the road, and the forest is really thick next to me. And I'm like, I cannot poop my pants. Like, that is not going to happen. And I don't want to poop on the road. So please, please, please just get to the forest, get to the trail, get to a place where I can go. And I keep going and I keep going. And then like literally 2 steps into the woods where I'm off of the road, I have to drop my pants and like run into the woods and go. And it was a close call. So that was an experience. And I took care of it the way you do in the woods and got back on the trail. So grateful that I didn't get any on me. So grateful I didn't puke either. And then my stomach just kept gurgling. Like I was like, oh dear God, I don't want this to happen. Like 5 times. It felt like, when you get sick and you just have to live 5 feet from the bathroom. It felt like it was that. And I was like, no, I don't want to have to keep dropping my pants every 5 feet. And I don't know who else is going to come up near me. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want any of this to happen. But I just keep going. And miraculously, my stomach stays big and gurgly and keeps threatening for me to have to run off trail. But they were all like close calls, not real true alarms yet. So I just keep going and just thinking like, we're going to just keep going, get to that next tree, get to that next tree, get to that next tree. So this final loop is such a paradox because on the one hand, I am so filled with joy. One of the runners that I come across and say hi to, she's like, wow, you're like giddy. And I'm like, I am, thank you. And I just keep going. And I'm just so filled with joy. But then simultaneously, my gut is turning and turning and turning. And I'm thinking also like, well, it's too late to solve that problem now because I only have a few more miles left. All we've got to do is just get to the finish line. And I had these scratch gummies. So I kept like grabbing a gummy, just like one little gummy at a time. Because I've also made the mistake at the end of races where I stop fueling myself because I'm so close. But then I drop in energy tremendously because I stopped fueling myself when I really needed it the most. So I forced myself to keep eating these gummies, even though chewing this sweet thing is the last thing my belly wants. It would be like I'd put it in my mouth and then get this wave of queasiness, like, oh, I don't want that. But then immediately I felt like my body wanted it. It was like rejecting it at first and then absorbing it instantly. Such a wild experience. It's so interesting what the body does at that time. I come across my first person in the dark and I say hello. He says hi and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad to see someone in the dark. And he's like, oh, me too. It was just such a nice little lift. Then I come across another person and I say like, how you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm doing, like, I'm still moving. And I just recognize, at this hour in the race, depending on what race they're in, they've still been out there over 12 hours at this point. That it's a tough time for people. And so I kind of just made it my mission that every person I came across, I would just give a little bit of my energy to, because I felt like I had so much energy, so much joy. I wanted to just be a light lift. Who knows? I might have been a royal pain in their butt. I might have been driving them crazy. But on the one chance that I could offer them a little bit of lift, I wanted to do so. So there's this one woman that I came across. I was like, how you doing? And she's like, still moving. I was like, that's good. That's important. She asked, what race I was in, and I said 100k. She's like, "Oh, me too." And she says, "What loop are you on?" Like, "I'm on my last one." And she's like, "Wow, congratulations." I'm like, "What about you?" She says, I have 3 more to go after this." And I'm like, "Woohoo." And she's like, "Yeah, today has not gone the way that I've wanted it to go." And so I shared with her what I've kind of alluded to about pain, that I think the same goes with having low moments and such. So I tell her, I'm a firm believer that these things can always turn around unexpectedly. And sometimes even the lowest of moments can pass, and you can have like the highest moment at the end of your race. So I hope the end of your race is fantastic. And she pauses a moment, and then she says, "Thank you for that." And, I say something else and I move on, and I keep going. And I hope that was a bit of peace for her. But I've shared that with other people out in races before. And I think in the 50 mile, I shared that with someone, and he was kind of new. It was his first 50K that day. So he was new to that long distance, and he was astonished at the concept when I said, "Yeah, I cannot tell you how many races I've done where the last 5 miles were the best miles." So if you're open to it, and you don't just attach to this day being a bad day and be open to it getting better, it can get better. It doesn't always. Sometimes it stays pretty bad, but there is a chance it can. And he was blown away by that. So I kind of try and share that as much as I can whenever there's an opportunity to. I am cruising at this point, and I'm filled with joy, and I'm really paying attention to stay as present as I can. Because especially when you think, oh, only 4 miles, 4 miles can still be a long time. In the grand scheme of things, it seems small in comparison to 62, but 4 miles can be a really long 4 miles if you let it. If you're not present and you're just constantly waiting for the finish line at every turn, I've been there before, it becomes a torturous 4 miles. So I keep telling myself to stay here, be here, be here, be here now. Feel the ground, notice the sounds around you, the beautiful crickets, notice the smells around you, like the night smells change. It's like earthier, a little bit more of that like leaf smell. It's wonderful. Notice the feeling of the air. It was getting cooler, so I had like this cool air against my skin. It was lovely. I wasn't cold. It was like if it was a few degrees colder, I would have started to get chilly, but it was like just the right amount to feel like wonderful and refreshing on my sweaty, warm skin. I continued to tell myself, be here now, feel this step, this step, this step, this step. And my stomach managed to hold off. And I come across this turn, and up ahead, I see some light. And coupled with the light, I hear some cheering in the distance. And I can tell that I'm coming across this stretch that opens up to the field. And then I circle around the field to run into the finish line. And as soon as I realized this, I burst out in laughter, probably somewhat teary laughter. And I'm aware of how early it is. It's a little after 8 p.m. I'm completely stunned, completely in awe. Like, what? This is so early. And I run into the field and start running around the field where there's all these people set up. And I choose to cheer because I was just so excited. So I just like raise my arms up, just being like, haha, like so excited. And then people start cheering for me. And then I say thank you and cheer back. And I'm just like truly, truly, truly soaking up every step of this final stretch of the race. And I run into the final chute. And I don't see my mom or Catherine at the pop-up, so I know that they're at the finish. And I come to the finish, and there they are. And I cross the finish line, hug my mom. Oh my gosh, I was so blown away. I look at the time. It was 13 hours and 8 minutes I finished, when I anticipated, hoping, beyond hope, that I could finish in 16. Maybe at best 15, but I didn't even say that out loud ever. 13 hours and 8 minutes. I'm stunned. I'm completely blown away. The volunteers at the finish line, and they're saying, okay, go get your belt buckle. And I'm like, what? I get a belt buckle? It's traditional for 100 miles to give belt buckles. I didn't know that 100Ks get belt buckles too, but they do, at least in this race. I don't know if that's across the board everywhere. So I'm so excited I get to have a belt buckle. I go over and I start picking the belt buckle. When we start to walk away, start to talk about the idea of getting to the bathroom and changing and everything. Then I'm like, wait a second, I came in so early. There's a chance I might have placed. And I say that to my mom, like, let's go find out. Let's go see if there's a results board. There was a TV, a screen that had the results that were showing like the results in real time, showing like when each person came in each lap. And I look for the 100K race and I look for my name. I couldn't find it at first because it was at the top. I came in first place female. As soon as this registers, I scream out loud, like, what? First place? Like screaming, not caring how loud I was because I was so shocked. I never, ever, ever have gotten first place before. Never dreamed I could get first place at 100K. What? At 100K that was big? I was stunned. I never in a million years would I have ever dreamed that be possible. Then head to the bathroom and start changing. We got in the car and drove home and stopped and grabbed a chocolate milkshake on the way home. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. And was able to get home and sleep in my own bed. But I am still so shocked, so in awe that I came in first place. The girl who thought I could never be a runner, the girl who also thought it would never be possible for me to be a fast runner, ran 62 miles and came in first place in 100K. And this just brings me full circle to everything that this podcast is about and everything that I teach and everything that I live, that the stories that your mind tells you, the things that your mind says is possible for you, and the things that it says is not possible for you is a load of crap. The things that your mind say should not be trusted. Instead, question any thought or limiting belief that limits your desire. If you have a desire for something and your brain tells you all the reasons why that's a bad idea, or why you could never do it, or why you're not capable enough, or why it would be impossible or crazy or ludicrous to even think about doing that kind of thing, that's the desire to chase, my friend. That is the desire to chase. I had that with running. I always had a secret desire to be a runner. And now looking back, I can tell I was always meant to be a runner. Ever since I was little, I love running. I love hiking. I love being in the woods with every fiber of my being. It brings me alive in a way that nothing else does. I feel so capable and strong, and I feel like I tap into this energy that I bring with me into every other area of my life, and I would not have discovered this had I listened to those thoughts that told me, you can't ever be a runner. You're not capable enough for that. You're not strong enough for that. You could never be a fast runner. It would be embarrassing for you to call yourself a runner. All of these thoughts I used to believe, but if I had stayed believing them, I would never, ever have gotten here. Now, I'm not here to convince you to take up running. I'm here to convince you to take up the thing that's in your heart, the thing that you want to do, that maybe people in your life, or maybe thoughts or stories in your mind, or maybe history in your past shows you that you shouldn't. Question those thoughts, challenge them, and work towards showing up for that desire. It has not been an easy journey to get here. It's been one hard step at a time, and I've grown so much. I've become so strong mentally, physically, emotionally. I've become so resilient in all of those areas as well because of following this desire. And I've put into practice the things that I teach in such a way that has unlocked so many parts of myself that in my opinion were always here. This is who I always was. I just needed to peel off the layers that told me otherwise. And the same goes for you, my friend. The last biggest takeaway that I have is to chase joy and expand it. Do not stifle your joy for anyone. I used to stifle my joy out of embarrassment, out of not wanting to outshine someone next to me, or not wanting someone who's in a bad mood to get cranky about my joy or something like that. Screw all of that. Do not stifle your joy ever. When you expand your joy, You get to have that. It's no one else's. It's yours. Only you get to choose your own joy, and only you get to experience it, and only you get to expand it. And yet when you do, you support and inspire and impact so many people. I don't care if you get your joy from doing puzzles in your house or doing something that no one ever sees. When you expand your own joy and then you enter the world and interact with the world and you feel more creative and you feel more okay and you feel well, you show up as your best self, you keep growing, you keep stepping forward. It serves the world when you expand your own joy. We need more joy. Now more than ever, we need more joy. We need more of us choosing joy, even when it seems like there's so many reasons not to. But in my opinion, the more tragedy that happens around the world, the more hardship, the more discord we have, the more important it is for us to choose joy. Because when we choose joy, we show up as our best selves. We're there for other people. We show up in a bigger, better way. Never stifle your joy. Work on choosing it. Work on expanding it. Work on the vulnerability of expanding it in front of someone else. It is a profound experience. It has been for me. It's been a long journey of doing it, but it is a profound experience. Highly, highly recommend it. All right, my friend, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. So excited to share this pop-up episode. Share your comments if you're watching the YouTube video. Hit like, hit subscribe. I'm going to be sharing yoga tutorial videos, drills that support your body. I would not be able to run 62 miles had I not been supporting my physical body through the yoga drills, through the practices of the mind and the emotions that I use in yoga. And I'll be sharing more of those things on my YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. So much love to you. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.